But everybody, would you please give Debreon Davis a big hand?
Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. What David didn't tell you is I'm a high school principal, so it's really hard for me to stay up here because I want to be down there with you. And I'm going to say good morning again because I want everybody to be involved. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Thank you. It's so much better. Yes! Go Huskies. I'm the principal at Edmond North High School. We are the Huskies. And the best. Hold on, let me get my presentation pulled up. We have a 50 slide PowerPoint this morning. There are worksheets that are going to come around in a minute. I'm just kidding. It's not 50 slides, and there are no worksheets. But I did fight that urge of like, okay, I've got to get them a practical worksheet and some homework to do and some steps to make sure everybody's good to go. It's just the educator in me. But I'm really excited to be here, and this is such a much needed rest and day for me as well. We've been at the school all summer preparing for next school year to make sure we take care of your kiddos and they're learning all of the things. And so I'm excited. Had a really good time in worship this morning and marinating on those two questions of where am I and what do I need? And found myself really uncomfortable sitting there for 20 minutes when when he said 20 minutes, it was like, that's a long time. We're just gonna sit here. Like, we're just gonna sit? Okay, so you just want us to sit for 20? Okay, sit. Email, don't check your email, sit. Oh, okay, sit. That was really a struggle for me to just be still for 20 minutes. We talked about in our group how nice that was to actually start that way, of just being forced to be still for a little bit and reflect. So thank you, Wes, for leading us in that time this morning as we talk about and we dive into what does it mean to become an Oasis. So when David called and asked if I would speak at this, when he said the theme was Oasis, I was like, okay. And I didn't really know what that meant. So the first thing that came to my mind, I don't know why, was like sand. And I think a mirage is what came to my mind first, but I wasn't really understanding like what the theme Oasis. And so I even asked him like, what's the definition that we're working with here? What are the adjectives and the verbs? How are we describing this? And so to start off, we are going to start off with the definition of what is an oasis. Because as David's talking to me on the phone, I type in oasis in Google, and what comes up is that an oasis is a fertile spot in a desert where water is found. And oases provide habitats for animals and plants. And as I was reading that, I see the word habitat. And a habitat is the natural home or environment for a plant, animal, or an organism. And so as I was preparing, the word habitat really stood out to me as the natural home. Jesus is our natural home. Jesus is our habitat. Jesus is our oasis. And so as we talk about how do we become something, let's make sure we have the foundation and the groundwork for what that thing actually means. So what does oasis even mean? And here we have, it's our fertile ground. It's our place of refreshment. It's where we find water. It's where we find life. It is Jesus. Jesus is our oasis. Jesus is our natural habitat. We've already heard the verse from Matthew 11:28 that says, "Are you weary, carrying a heavy burden? Come to me. I will refresh your life, for I am your oasis." Simply join your life with mine. Learn my ways, and you'll discover that I'm gentle, humble, and easy to please. You will find refreshment and rest in me. I'm going to read that again. You will find refreshment and rest in me, for all that I require of you will be pleasant and easy to bear. And so we've set that groundwork for today, that Jesus is inviting us to come to him. Everything we are carrying, he's essentially saying, give it to me. Let me bear this burden, and I will help your ways become light. I will help your yoke become easier. For I want you to give me your burden, for I am your oasis. And so in this session, we're going to talk about how do we become an oasis? How do we do this? What does that actually look like? What does that actually mean? And in my life, I found in order for me to get to a place of rest, I have to be in a place of complete surrender. In order for me to be in a place of rest, I have to be in a place of complete surrender. In a world full of power and control, the most radical act is open-handed trust and surrender. And we're going to focus for a little bit on the part that says open-handed. So let's reflect on this past year. And on a scale of like 1 to 10, 1 being amazing, 10 being awful, right? Where could we say we landed on this scale of 1 to 10? And we might have a lot that are in the 5 and 10 range. It was hard. And we can collectively acknowledge that this past year of life was hard. This past year and a half was hard in so many different regards. No matter what it is that you did in this room, whether you were a CEO of a company and it was shut down, or you have 10 kids and you were home with them for a year, bless you, right? It was hard. But we have to learn how to come to this place of complete surrender. And it's something that I've had to learn in my own life. I feel like every single minute of every day. As a principal, there's 2,600 kids at my school. There's only one of me, but there's 2,600 of them. So like I walk in every day and I've got plans of like, we're going to accomplish this today and this is going to happen. And then 2,600 kids come into the building. And what I thought was going to happen just kind of gets derailed, right? So it's this constant place of surrender all day, every day in my life, but I love it. My first year as a principal, though, this need for surrender was really brought to life for me when I started the year. And if you don't know me, I'm a super competitive person. I played basketball in high school and college, and I love competition, and I like to win. But it's okay if I lose sometimes. Not really. That's not really okay. Just kidding. I need to surrender that. Yes. So my first year, I go in and I want to do well, right? And I want our school to succeed, and I want our kids to feel loved and be seen. And so I think that means I have to be present at everything. And I think that means that I can't have space for or margin for rest. And I think that means I've got to be at every meeting. I'm going to be at every football game, every play, every musical. I have to be there. By March of that year, my body's telling me, like, can we sleep? Can we slow down? What are we doing? But I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. We're going to be there. We're going to go. And I start getting this really like burning pain in my stomach, and it's really hard to eat. And my secretary's like, I think you have a hernia. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And I keep going. It's burning. I'm just pretending like everything is fine. Everyone's like, yeah, you definitely have a hernia. Like that, that's definitely what's happening. I'm like, no, I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. I do not. Everything is fine. This was the year that there was a teacher walkout as well. So my first year as a head principal, and all the teachers walk out. I was like, dear God, what does this mean? Like, none of the teachers are here. It was great. It was super stressful, but everything was fine in my mind, right? So I'm just gonna keep going, and then my back starts to hurt, and I couldn't bend past here. I took a Tupperware box and I put it on my desk. And I put my computer on the box, and that's how I was working in my office because I couldn't sit down. My secretary was like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm totally fine. Everything's fine. So my stomach's burning. My back is messed up. Well, again, I'm competitive. I'd signed up to run the half marathon. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't have to bend to run. So yeah, I'm crazy, gal. So I still run this half marathon. And at mile 11, my left leg, like it starts in the calf. Who's ever had a Charlie horse or like had your leg cramp up? It's horrible. But in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm at mile 11. That means there's 3 miles left. That's just a 5K. You know how you do that in your mind, like 20 minutes. That's 210, 4 sets of 5, just 20 times. I can do this, right? So there's 3 miles left. I can do this. And by the end, I'm literally like, this is how I cross the finish line, just like walking. And my partner who I ran with, she looks at me and says, I think we should stop. And I'm like, no, we're fine. I'm fine. There's only 3 miles left. So finish this half marathon. And I'm totally injured, like messed up my leg. It was great. But in my mind, I was in control, right? And I'm walking around with my fists like this. Like, no, I signed up for this. I'm doing it. We are doing it. I keep my word. We're doing this. And we get to May. We're getting ready for graduation, and I'm in a parent meeting, and I feel this pressure in my eye. I have no idea what's happened. And the parent looks at me like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, fine. Why? Are you okay?" "Well, your eye, like it's like bleeding." And so I popped a blood vessel in my eye. And I'm like, "Oh, that's what that pressure was. Okay, sweet." So this is my first year as a principal, right? My body is like, stop. Like, you need to stop. This all has to stop. But for me, I was walking around like this with my fist clenched because I was in control and I didn't need to rest. And I am invisible, and God has placed me here, and by golly, I'm going to do God's work, right? Have we ever done that? Like, driven ourselves into the ground in the name of, this is God's work. But it's like the opposite of what his word says. His word says, are you heavy? Do you have a burden? Come to me. Give it to me. But the way I was operating was, I'm in control. So I go to the doctor for my back. He wants me to do an MRI, and I'm like, no. I end up getting an MRI because at this point I was just literally hobbling around the school, and the kids were like, "Miss Davis, are you okay?" It's like, no, I'm not. It was great. But I had this moment of realizing I have to let go. I have to surrender. Because I was walking around like this, and I was ready to like KO, right? To knock out and fight my battle here. But this morning, we sang about that we fight our battle here, right? This is how we fight our battles. But in my mind, it was this is how, with my fist clenched and me in control. And God, I would say gently showing, it was a lot of pain, it wasn't really gentle, showing that this is how we fight our battles. This is how we become an oasis. In this place of complete surrender, open-handed trust, giving up my control, saying, God, I trust you. I believe you. No matter what happens in my life, no matter what happened this past year, no matter what you experienced, that we're operating from a place of surrender. And continually giving up, surrendering control. There's a bunch of verses listed on this slide. The gist of it is that in order for us to become an oasis, we must be like the oasis. In order for us to become an oasis, how do we live in this place of rest? How do we live in this place of refreshment? We have to become like the oasis. Matthew 14:23. After he had sent the crowds away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when it was evening, he was there alone. Mark 6:46. After bidding them farewell, he left for the mountain to pray. Luke 5:16. But Jesus himself would often slip away to the wilderness and pray. John 14:16. I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper, that he may be with you forever. I will ask the Father, I will pray, and he will give you another helper, that he may be with you forever. Does anyone see the common denominator in these verses? You can share. You can talk out loud. He went away and he did what? And he prayed. And so here we have Jesus. This is like the ultimate example of leadership, the ultimate example of everything. And they just got back from all these adventures, right? They just went and like healed people and shared the good news. While he's got these people he's discipling, because Jesus, like, right? Jesus knows I'm not going to be here forever. I have to model for them how to stay in this place of oasis, because I'm not going to be here forever. And I know I'm not going to be here forever, so I'm going to pray for a helper to come and stay with them, to help them stay in this place of oasis. Because Jesus knows my time with them is not forever. So let me model what it is that they need to know how to do to stay in this place of rest and refreshment with me. And he left and he prayed. Over, and there's like 30 plus verses that I could have put up there that says, and Jesus left and he prayed. And so what does that practically look like? What can that practically look like in your life? I don't have a wilderness that I can easily access to go pray in, but I do have the ability to just walk away, right? And just take some time to myself. I do have the ability to close my office door for 2 seconds at work and just take a breath and invite Jesus and the Holy Spirit into that place so I can constantly be operating in this place of rest and refreshment. So that Oasis isn't just July, 22nd. Oasis is my lifestyle. I become that because he says, come to me. He's inviting us. He says, come to me, and I will give you rest. Kai and the worship team, you guys can go ahead and head up. Come to me, and I will give you rest. Jesus invites us into a life of refreshing light with him. He wants that for us. He invites us into that. John 7:37 says, let anyone who is thirsty come to me and drink. Whoever believes in me, as scripture has said, rivers of living water will flow from within them. If you are thirsty, come to me and drink, and rivers of living water will flow out from you. Jesus is saying, come to me. I am your oasis. Are you sad? Come to me. Are you angry? Come to me. Are you frustrated? Come to me. Is your business failing? Hey, come to me. Are your kids driving you? Hey, me. The world is really loud right now. Come to me. Social media, I can't even say it. Come to me. Come to me. And I will give you rest, for I am your natural home. I am your oasis. That's what Jesus is saying to us. So how do we become an oasis? We surrender. Becoming an oasis is about the posture of our hearts. We must be willing to commit to propelling ourselves forward into this place of refreshment, rest, and surrender with Christ, so that there's space for us to constantly be refilled to do what it is that God has called you to do every single day in whatever your sphere of influence is outside of this place. How do we become an oasis? We surrender. We're getting ready to head into a time of worship led by Kai. And as we head into this time, there are two things that I want you guys to focus on. You can see them on the screen right here. There's two questions. The first is, what are you carrying that he has said, cast it on me? And the second is, what are you believing that is opposite of God's love for you in this moment? And I want you to surrender both of those things. What is it that you need to let go of? And what is the lie that you're believing about yourself that is keeping you from operating in this place of surrender so that we continue to become this oasis? I'm also going to challenge you. This is totally the principle in me. I'm going to challenge you that during this time of worship, you open up your hands and you unclench your fist. I find it really hard to be angry when I'm in this state of prayer, and I find it really hard to pray with my fist clenched. So let's open up our hands. Let's invite Jesus into these places and spaces in our life as we continue on this path of becoming an oasis.